Hello, I'm Brad Smith. Welcome to Unit 11, the importance of information in the supply chain. This week's focus is very much on the information driver in the supply chain. Now, regardless of where an organisation wants to sit on the efficient versus responsiveness continuum, it's critical that they have a good supply of information. For an organisation that wants to operate at the efficiency level of the supply chain, it's important that they have very good feedback on the actual demand levels so that they can most efficiently tailor their inventory levels to meet that demand without producing too much inventory and obviously not producing too little. Organisations operating at the responsiveness level of the supply chain want very quick transmission of the demand so that they can very quickly meet that demand with the right types of inventory so they have what the customer wants when they want it at the time and the place that they want it. So all of this comes down to the ability to communicate information along the supply chain. And one of the best ways to look at the importance of information in the supply chain is to actually see what happens when organisations don't have good information within the supply chain. So we will, in this unit, play an online game called the Inventory Supply Chain game, or some of you might have heard of it as the beer game. It's an online game, or if you're attending face-to-face classes, we can also play this in our face-to-face classes. And it's a great game for demonstrating the importance of information in the supply chain. What you'll do is play one of four roles in the supply chain. We have a retailer selling a product, for example, beer. We have a distributor, a wholesaler, and a factory producing the beer. Now, orders flow from the retailer up the supply chain to the factory, and the factory produces the product and ships it down the supply chain to the customer. Now, you'd think that sounds like a pretty simple thing to do, but if you get involved in this game, I think you'll have a lot of fun. You'll find that it's not quite as simple as it sounds. I won't tell you any more about it, but I do encourage you, if you haven't played this game before, to get involved online or certainly in the face-to-face classes. Come along and play the game. What we'll find is that a phenomenon develops called the bullwhip effect, where small changes in demand at one end of the supply chain can result in quite large fluctuations in demand at the other end of the supply chain. And one of the ways to overcome this is to have good, fast, efficient transfer of information along the supply chain. So those at the production end of the supply chain are aware of the final demand that's occurring and therefore can tailor their capacity to suit. This is becoming increasingly important as supply chains become longer and longer, more global in their nature. It used to be not such an issue when companies were sourcing their product either in-house or outsourcing to suppliers that were quite local, because by nature the communication channels were fairly short. But increasingly supply chains are becoming longer, much more global. The physical distance between the suppliers of components, raw materials, is much longer and are going through many more parties before they get to the final manufacturer and ultimately retailer of the products. So unless there's very good, fast, efficient transfer of information, supply chains very quickly become disorganised and not operating at optimal efficiency. The other thing to note with this unit is that whilst each party in the supply chain can be acting independently to try and optimise their own performance, if everybody does that, what often occurs is that the overall supply chain is not optimised, and that ultimately, if every party wants to maximise their return by participating in the supply chain, it's better if they coordinate with each other. Now that might mean that initially they have slightly lower return, lower profit, but ultimately they have more, because by optimising the supply chain, in effect what happens is they grow the overall size of the pie. So there's more pie to go around to each of the participants. So this is all things that we look at in this unit. It's a very important aspect, and perhaps one of the most important drivers of the supply chain today is the efficient transfer of information up and down the supply chain. So all good things to talk about. I hope you enjoy this unit, and I look forward to meeting up with you again in Unit 12.